I think, first of all, there are a lot of interesting topics to discuss here, but personally attacking each other and each other's organization is not going to achieve the substance that I think people care about in this audience.
There's nothing wrong with this, but people who are more liberal tend to go into academia. And I don't mean that as an insult or anything. It's just truth. Yeah. So you're right. So that's why academia ends up being more to the left. The commentary we make and the reform where we say we want intellectual diversity and more representation, when you have a country that is split about 40-40 and then 20 in the middle, and academia is 90-10, there's something wrong with that. Now, I'm all for free speech and all that. I'm not saying firing professors and all that, but I'm saying adding different perspectives, beliefs, and opinions, endowing different professors, different schools that are getting blocked by administration, especially in these different schools of business and finance. You should have an equal representation where people hear both sides of the argument. That's all we're saying.
Why won't the conservative mega donors that contribute to the endowment of these supposedly liberal, radically liberal college campuses, why won't they say something to the administration?
They are.
Okay, so what you're saying is that these donors don't even pull their funding.
Well, they are too. But what I'm saying is that it's been going on for 60 years, and it's so tilted and it's so out of whack that it's more than entirely possible to go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Stanford, and not hear one good thing about a conservative idea for more than 10 minutes in 4 years.
It's more than entirely possible. Milton Friedman is you know,
dead.
I understand, but his books are still in classes that are introductory.
What is the most read book in college today? Number one.
I have no idea.
Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto. It is. You can laugh. It's documented by the Council of Higher Education.
I wish more people read it and understood it then. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's contributed to the death of 100 million people in the last 100 years.
This
details.
narrative.
Well, that wasn't real Marxism. It's like, okay, well, how many countries do you need to disprove your thesis? How many millions of people have to die before you might admit that you're wrong? Well, obviously more than 100 million, because that's the approximate total. That's probably an underestimate, but we'll be conservative, because adding another 10 million doesn't really make that much difference.
Okay. So, before we started, we wanted to talk about how you falsely equate democratic socialism into communism, but I guess if you want to go there, we can.
If we want to talk about the failures of Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil,
I love
everywhere Marxism has been tried.
I mean, imperialist efforts of the United States brought about all around the world. Let's not even talk about that. And then let's falsely equate democratic socialism, which partially exists. Socialist constructs are existing in this government that you love.
The most inefficient, you mean the VA that kills veterans? Medicare that
literally kills veterans.
The postal service that can't even get mail on time. Our government that's $20 trillion in debt. Everything government is more like socialist is bankrupt,
police
inefficient,
departments, fire departments, roads. I don't understand.
Wait, all those things are hyper-localized, and everything I attacked, you send your money to Washington, D.C., you go to the VA, and 60 cents on the dollar goes to administrative overhead, not actually helping our veterans that died in the line of fire.
You know how you
So government is so inefficient, government is broke, but more government will help.
Can I dig us out of this rabbit hole real fast? So, what are some things that we can do to actually increase dialogue across political differences on campus?
Eradicate safe spaces, make sure that there's white supremacy everywhere on college campuses, and then maybe it'll be good again. Maybe we'll make America great again.
I want to get both of you on this, but what's your serious answer, Hassan? I want to actually hear your real answer to this.
It's a well-refined argument.
Look, I'm obviously joking. I'm trying to, bring it back down a little bit. Like, I don't think you genuinely advocate for white supremacy. I think certain policy positions that you may be on board with probably have this negative outcome that is resemblant of white supremacy. But regardless, look, I'm going to be the first to admit that I don't really understand what the problem is. So I don't really know exactly how to deal with this problem on college campuses. It seems like not just socialism, but just progressive idealism is popular. And there's not really too much you can do about that unless you create an organization that is successful, and I will admit that it is successful, Turning Point college campuses and high school. And you try to bring back, make conservatism sexy again for the youth, and if it doesn't work out, then tough titties.
Wow. So what is the problem? Here's the problem. When speakers are disinvited, when Turning Point USA is labeled as a hate group at Santa Clara University, at St. Thomas University, we are not allowed to bring the speakers we want to bring on campus, we get our funding pulled, that's where the problem lies. And it happens dozens of times to us a semester, and hundreds of times a year to all sorts of different groups on the conservative paradigm. And what I would love is to have the commitment of the left to say, this is wrong. We will fight for free speech. We will say, yes, Ben Shapiro, you should be able to come to DePaul, which the Young Turks rightfully said. Yeah. We appreciate it.
No, I hear that too. But if you're not popular, but if you're not popular,
But I can't help it that I'm popular.
You say unpopular things, you're not popular.
When he comes on campus.
Yeah, people that, one, want to criticize him for the most part. And like I said, I agree with that. I think Ben Shapiro should be able to speak on college campuses.
That's the problem.
But if he can't, because he's so unpopular, then don't do it on a college campus. Do it like right next to a college campus. Do it at a McDonald's campus, right?
He is popular.
I don't know why we're arguing whether Ben Shapiro or not.
But it's emblematic because he's disinvited from many campuses every year, and he's just one part of it.
So do you really think that there are there's this groundswell of support for not only Ben Shapiro but conservative ideology on college campuses?
100%.
And for some reason, I'm trying to understand this. So
no, that's good.
And administrations are just they're fascist, and college campuses are islands of totalitarian thought.
That's my quote.
Said before. Yeah,
he attributed it.
No, of course, I'm listening to. I've watched your videos, unfortunately, but. I'm just kidding. No, Charlie's very well spoken. He's great. That's why, conservative donors pay him a lot of money to go to college campuses and promote these intolerant ideas. But, look. So Charlie...
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah. So why do you think there's so much backlash against these ideas if they're not unpopular? Where do you think it comes from?
Well, so I will say...
Well, how do you stop that?
Well, my opinion is that there is a curiosity towards these ideas on college campuses, and according to CNN exit polls, which I've called fake news plenty of times, Donald Trump won the youth vote in Wisconsin of the 18 to 30 demographic. It is unmistakable that there is a move to the right amongst younger Americans versus when Barack Obama was president, and that scares a lot of people. It does. And I will say one final thing.
Out of the youth, you're hyper-targeting Wisconsin, but
that was a battleground state that did help.
I know, but overall, how many more people voted for Hillary Clinton than they did, and reluctantly or not?
Actually, Hillary Clinton had 20% less millennial support than Barack Obama for a lot of different reasons, but she
because it was negative campaigning on both ends, but that doesn't...
But there is a dramatic movement.
Why are you trying to equate it to... Okay.
You asked, is there a groundswell? The answer is absolutely yes.
No,
there is a dramatic amount of new interest in these ideas. Are millennials
more in favor of progressive ideas? And you have admitted already that they are, and it's such an overwhelming majority amongst young people to favor ideas that would have been considered, and you still consider radical, like democratic socialism, that you're the one who's terrified. You're the one who's afraid that this country might actually have some sort of positive change. You're the one who's afraid that white supremacy might potentially be checked, that misogyny, that patriarchy, that racism. I know, but look, Bill O'Reilly, who's a representative of Fox News, has talked about abolishing the Electoral College and its negative outcomes on the white supremacy, the white establishment. This is a terrifying thought for a lot of people, whether you want to admit it or not. You probably see it in the back of your minds that, hey, this is something that's happening, and unfortunately, we've had a pretty good run for the past couple of centuries, and right now that's changing because of all these movements. And now you're the one who's terrified, so much so that you're trying to indoctrinate the youth into thinking that equality is bad, and thinking that all of these opinions are wrong.
This is becoming more personal than I thought it would, but you're all over the place there with Electoral College, white supremacy. I'm not indoctrinating anyone.
There's a lot that's wrong with the conservative movement, I'm sorry.
Well,
which is why it's unpopular.
We're winning and you're losing. So, the final point, I'm not indoctrinating anyone. I don't control the colleges. We are enlightening young people to what they are not hearing in the lecture hall. And if it's such a bad idea, if what we are saying is so hateful and so radical, then why is it when we show up on these campuses, we have record number of people come to our meetings and come to hear our speakers, and while we're growing like unbelievable? Why is that?
But Hassan, you don't have a problem with Turning Point?
No, of course not. I think it's just ironic that someone who believes in or promotes free market capitalism is so upset with the free marketplace of ideas, basically saying that we like progressive ideas. He's so upset with it that he has to against it.
But as a free market capitalist, I see a problem and I look for a solution. It's basic competition. So, I mean, totally I'm not trying to regulate those ideas. I'm trying to say, how about you hear something new for a change?
But you are.
When have I ever said, that a liberal should not be allowed to speak on a college campus? Why? No, let me ask you a question. Why don't conservative groups picket and protest, pull fire alarms, and storm the stages?
Wait, you're working. It's called the Tea Party? I'm sorry.
No. Answer the question. Why don't conservative groups shout down speakers?
Because right now, conservatives are not the underdog. Democrats are.
No.
Like you've mentioned.
Wait, on college campuses, conservatives are not the underdog.
But I thought you just said that you guys are winning. There's so much winning happening.
Well, we're winning politically, but on college campuses,
that's where people fight for civil liberties. You know your history.
So storming the stage when Ben Shapiro comes and speaks, or when I come and speak and they storm the stage is fighting for civil liberties.
They really stormed the stage when you came to speak?
Yeah.
Man, you should. I sucks that you're not that popular. I don't know.
Or maybe they don't want to hear what I have to say.
But Hassan, you would denounce people storming the stage when Charlie speaks.
Of course I do. That's ridiculous.
Good.
But it happens hundreds of times a year.
Why get so bent up? Like, why get so bent out of shape for something that Charlie has to say? Let him say it to his small audience. The reaction that we...
I have more Twitter followers than you do, so let's just get
Should we put that Twitter to an audit? Because I get more retweets than you do.
Not even close.
Popularity.
No. Someone check that. Check my last 10 tweets. Check his last 10 tweets.
This became the most millennial conversation ever.
It's not even close. It's like not even close.
I'm not even going to put out the Instagram contest because that's not even.
Let's talk.
Anyway,
let's talk about the Facebook contest. I guess my ideas suck so hard that I get 10,000 retweets.
I mean, I'm
glad we've devolved into.
I know. What are we measuring? This is so stupid.
Shut up, faggot.
I don't know, they were ugly to me. Aesthetically, I felt that they were ugly, and I guess beauty is an eye of the beholder, and to me they were ugly too.
On how we can increase dialogue on campus. I'm really proud of that. So
I enjoyed it.
So actually, so I want to give Charlie a chance to answer that question. Like, what are some concrete things we can do? Because you're working on a lot.
Charlie's still pissed about his Facebook followers right now on Instagram. He's like,
Instagram needs work, but Facebook is fine. So go ahead.
I mean, you're saying that conservative views are looked down upon on campuses, and you're building this presence on many campuses across the country. What are some concrete things you can do to build a dialogue across these political differences on campus?
Well, and we host debates, and we're not afraid to do that. And look, just hear something that you disagree with without having to yell safety. Or having to go to a incident bias report team, or without having to say, oh my goodness, saying the words illegal immigrant means that's a microaggression. I mean, here's something that you disagree with.
illegal immigrant.
I mean, yeah, you're happy to say it. But look, you're different. You're not the norm. I think you'd be surprised if...
I don't think the people that you claim are the norm is the norm either. But they have a right to be offended. They have a right to be upset. They
don't have a right to shut someone up when they visit on campus.
Wait, you're trying to shut them up? You are so offended that I hate to go back to the same cyclical argument, but you are so upset that people even have a place that they can go to rid themselves of intolerance for just a moment. That is how much you're afraid of ideas that you think are radical. I don't know what else to say about
I was talking about shouting down speakers, not about safe spaces. I think we've already discussed that plenty.
Okay.
But again, don't you find it troubling that when a conservative speaker...
Would it be better if you could go to a safe space after they shout your ideas are stupid?
Well, no, I mean, here's the thing. We're not advocating for it. We just want the ability to peacefully bring a speaker on campus without having to worry about a riot. And it's not a protest. Most of the times these are riots.
Most of the times.
Yeah,
I know.
So
Many people have been murdered in the hands of these these snowflakey liberals that are also somehow radically violent. Like, get your argument right, man. Are we violent or are we snowflakes? Are we just offended? Are we soft? Or are we angry and we're a militia?
Offended, snowflakes, intolerant, you name it.
How is it? Those two things don't belong in the same category.
That's what makes it so contradictory, is that the left on campus believes that they're for tolerance, they say they're for tolerance, and then they say, we don't want Ann Coulter, we don't want Ben Shapiro to come on campus. How is that consistent?
I don't know.
Who are you tolerant of, exactly?
We're tolerant of every single person that Ann Coulter has unleashed verbal war on, and that even includes victims of 9/11, the widows of 9/11. She wrote a book saying that they were glamorazis and they were weaponizing victimhood. That's the kind of person Ann Coulter is. Why is that a hill that you want to die on? Why? You're a smart guy. Like, you're a smart guy. Such as yourself that aren't indoctrinated fully into that violent, right party and conservative mentality yet. You know, when you get there, we'll also probably not enjoy that either.
Here's another one. The Vice President of the United States goes to Notre Dame, and 30 people have to stand up and protest at the graduation ceremony.
Yeah,
cancel.
Because the Vice President of the United States...
Wait, he was the former governor of Indiana.
Yeah.
He's a Catholic, and you are so intolerant of his ideas, you have to stand up.
The guy who advocated for electroshock therapy for homosexuals, we're so intolerant of that. That's so fucked up.
Dramatic or showy behavior are intended to impress an audience or observers.
We try to battle it as best as we can, and unfortunately we lost, and now we have a guy who calls his wife mother in office. What do you want me to do? Do you not want them to protest? Like, why are you trying to always take away their right to protest? It's so hypocritical.
Because as soon you can peacefully protest.
It's so hypocritical.
No, it's not hypocritical.
Colin Kaepernick peacefully protested, took a knee. How is he doing that? You can't do that. Then if they protest on the streets, it's not acceptable. If they protest peacefully, it's not acceptable. It seems like you just don't want them to protest, because I didn't hear you yelling at Tea Party people when they were burning Obama. Do you think people have a right to protest? Or do you think people are just... Do you think people have a right to protest?
100%.
Or do you think people should only protest when it's things that you're in favor of?
No, I'm okay with this protesting. Here's the difference.
It doesn't seem like it.
So when you start interrupting a speaker and pulling the fire alarm and throwing objects, isn't that something wrong with that? That's
I
entirely...
think it's funny, but yeah, there is something wrong with that.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. You're making a straw man argument about something. I believe that everyone has a right to protest peacefully however they see fit. You're creating this
as long as they're not Colin Kaepernick.
No, you can say whatever.
As long as they're not the 30 students at Notre Dame who protested Mike.
They interrupted the graduation. They literally interrupted the graduation ceremony for 20 minutes, made a huge commotion all about themselves on something that's supposed to be about the university. No, seriously.
Do you think Mike Pence needed a safe space after that?
No, but I mean, do you think there's something wrong with that? Do you think that's a sad commentary about how intolerant those people are? They can't.
I do. I think it's funny. I think it's funny how bent out of shape you are that people stood up and exercised their fucking free speech. That you're so. You're so angry at them. You're like, oh, how dare they? 30 students. Who cares? The man has advocated for gay conversion therapy. This is what our country is now. That's where we're at now. Of course, I don't think that's right.
Okay,
but
that's
I think
what I was
that
saying.
it's right
So
that
we
they
agree.
can protest that. I think that's a terrible idea.
I was making a commentary on what they were doing, not saying they didn't have a right to do it. You're making this straw man argument.
Okay. No, my bad. You're right.
Well, just to your credit, Charlie, you've been saying quietly sometimes that you defend people's right to peacefully protest.
I say it a lot.
And you defend their right to protest the vice president, even though you disagree with them doing that.
Correct.
Excellent. All right. So, I just want to come to some resolution on the safe space thing. I actually heard a lot of do it.
Let's fix it right here.